And we've got something special now because Paul Sporer is here in his darkness once again. Isn't it like 3 o'clock there or something? It is so and you're muted right now too. You got to hit the top of that mic. There
Why
it
do
is.
you want it bright? Fine,
Because we
there we
want to
go.
see
Oh, wait.
Charlotte's pillow.
Yeah. No. You
Yeah,
want to see
and
Charlotte
Charlotte on the
herself? We'll just keep it on.
but
Oh, that's dirty over there.
yeah,
Never
yeah.
mind.
So I need you to tell everybody all the little tchotchkes you have right now, especially the hat, the shirt. The shirt's
The hat I'm
Fangraphs is
wearing?
wonderful. Yeah,
Hat I'm
just all the
wearing is
stuff.
a Detroit Tigers
I need
hat.
to get my coffee really quickly, so I
Okay.
need you to stall for about
Okay.
30 seconds.
Oh, I can do that.
Okay?
Of course.
You got this?
Me talk for a little
Okay.
bit. Yes,
Yeah, I
can
know.
do.
Really, really hard.
What
Go.
is going on, everybody? You guys know me. I'm Paul Sporer. I've been in the chat for most of PitchCon. This is my Detroit Tigers hat that my girlfriend got for me. And it's a winter edition from hatclub.com. She got it completely on her own, like took a chance, didn't know, it's going to like it. Obviously, it's Tigers hat, but I'm big on like on-field hats more so, and huge winner. Of course, it's my Fangraphs sweatshirt, available fangraphs.com. He probably wants me to talk about Sandy back here. Oh, I'm bad at pointing. No, move your finger the right way, Paul. Jeez, I'm doing it the wrong way. God, Sandy right there, the flamingo with a Santa hat on. Nick got that for me at Arizona Fall League 2 years ago. We had to say it was an argument would suggest that like we were in some sort of fight. No, we were. I was being loud and animated, and Nick was being an adult and remaining calm. But we were going back and forth about something, and maybe there was a little bit of tension in the air. And he got me a present, and then I've had Sandy back there ever since. You can see a painting of my two dogs, one of whom is now live and in person over there. Shar, that's a wiener dog pillow right there, and then. That's a pillow with all the baseball logos that my niece got me for Christmas. That's one of Charlotte's toys. This is Charlotte's ramp because she's a dachshund and they have bad backs. I also have a bad back. I'm not a dachshund, but it kind of runs in the family. And so there you go. You're caught up on the tchotchkes.
Beautiful job there, Spore. I'm excited to do this. I reached out to you about this separately because you know what? We haven't done a good fireside chat for a while, and I felt like now is the time to do it as we're starting to really get into the engine revving, I should say, for the
Agreed
2023 season. I'm sure there'll be another before the season starts. It's like, okay, now that we feel good about where we are planted. But right now we're having some trouble with some guys, and we wanted to talk about them today.
Yeah, I mean, we don't stop. You and I, we're crazy. No. We got baseball 24/7, 365. It's our job. We're lucky enough that it is our job. But we're getting all the football people back. Things are starting to really progress. And of course, I say it all the time. The second that the Super Bowl is done, baseball season has officially started. So we're getting close to that. We got the semifinals for football this tomorrow. In fact, too much football. I know. I'm sorry, but I'm talking about it ending. So don't worry. But yeah, it's time for a fireside chat. So let's go ahead and kick it off here. We're going to talk about some guys that we are having some troubles ranking. And maybe our discussion with each other can help us better rank them.
Exactly. Right. Actually, I wish I had the fireside chat theme.
You'll have to add it in later, right?
I'll put it in later, but here you go. You ready? We're going to start it now.
Hello and welcome to episode 1133 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Saturday, January 28th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, and it is time for a fireside chat live at PitchCon with Nick Pollock. Nick, how's it going?
What is happening? Yes, we have a fireside chat. It is PitchCon time. It means we've got lots of starting pitchers to talk about. All these things up in the air. What are we going to do? But yeah, it's just nice to be back by the fire with you, Paul.
Especially in the winter.
Spore, I apologize.
Oh, yeah, you're not angry with me.
I'm not angry.
I'm Paul when you're angry with me. Spore most of the time. So yeah, if you hear him call me Paul, I've done something wrong to upset Nick. So I'm probably cursed in a spot that I wasn't supposed to. I will not curse on this. Don't worry. I adhere to the rules. I do think there's a few words that maybe I think we should be able to say that we can, but hey, I'm on your turf. I'm playing by your rules. No problem. But we are going to talk about some pitchers that we're struggling with because, we've been doing rankings, at least working on them. You've been doing your excellent rotation breakdowns on stream, been going through different rankings. And there's guys that we're getting stuck on. And maybe, as I mentioned, before the podcast officially started recording for PitchCon folks, maybe our discussing back and forth can help us better understand where we want to be with these guys. Let's start with the universal one. We both could have picked this guy. Everyone's going to ask about him anyway. So let's just start with Jacob deGrom because he's probably the single most difficult guy, at least right now, because once he's in spring, if he's throwing BBs down there in Arizona for Texas, it's over. He skyrockets, of
Right.
course. But as it stands right now, there's drafts going on. People putting up money, people putting up real money in leagues, and they're having to figure out where to draft him. He goes pretty high. I'm not super comfortable with it, even though I understand the upside of him. He's the 6th pitcher off the board, 4th starter. Take off Edwin Diaz and Emmanuel Clase there, and that's how you get to the 4th starter. 29th pick. How are you feeling about DeGrom right now? Going to a new team, still dealing with the short samples recently, still brilliant anytime he pitches, of course. But what do you make of DeGrom and where are you putting him right now?
The way I see it is you are not going to lose your fantasy league because you are not the player or the person who took Jacob DeGrom, right?
You're not going to lose your league for passing on him, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
correct.
know. I know. I'm really hesitant to do the double negative like that, but
I feel you.
the knots are more important. But yeah, I know that feeling that if you let a guy go to someone else in your draft, oh man, you've lost it. He's the guy.
Because people call him league
and
winner. He's a league winner if he
right.
throws
All of that
180
stuff.
innings
Throw
or
it out
whatever.
the window. As Yancey mentioned, that Toby mentions, is that there are multiple ways to win. There's no real one ticket to it. So the problem I have with Jacob DeGrom is that it can ruin everything so quickly.
Yeah.
And it's a headache. Even if he's doing well in April, you're still going to have that tension the entire season. Is this it? Is this it? Is this it? And I can't do it. I can't deal with it.
Sorry about that.
Someone's drafting right now.
I have 3 drafts going right now.
You have
I'm literally
3 drafts
psychotic
right now. So hey, Spore is on deck. Are you 3rd round? Are you going to take Jacob DeGrom here? Is that it?
So beyond the 3rd round right now. It is in the 46th round. I'm picking Jacob DeGrom's child.
Yeah, there you go. You should take your guy. No, your guy, the one that we might
long
talk
gone.
about at the end is way
long
gone.
I didn't get him. I got sniped on him, but we will talk. Yeah,
Oh,
we're also
no.
going to do
Well,
a pick, a post 300 pick at the end as well here. So we're going to talk about things that we're
Jacob
struggling
DeGrom,
with first. So yeah,
I can't do it because
where did you put him in your first list?
First, I had how I normally do it is I like to group guys I think are similar. So I put a whole injured tier.
Okay.
And I think I have him right now. I keep pushing him down. I'm probably gonna have him once again because you gotta understand I'm doing this thing with also fast on our OTC, right? And it's 1 through 10, 11 through 20. But even then, I'm gonna change it probably by February 7th a little bit. I think I'm gonna have Jacob DeGrom outside of my top 10 just because I can't do it.
In the current rankings that are up, and I haven't done one since October on the site. I've been working on them, but the ones that are on the site, I put DeGrom 14th.
14th. There, I get it, right? Because we just don't know.
Obviously, that means I'm not getting him based on where he's going.
Right.
And I'm not too bothered by that. I love him. I want him to do well. I'm going to go up and see him. I'm at least going to try. We'll see if we can plan the right game.
Oh, that's exciting.
But yeah, I'm taking Jen up there to Globe Life. It'll be my first time at the new one as well. And I'm going to definitely try to plan it around a DeGrom start because I'd love to see him. So I better go early, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough. And if you take him, I'm not going to blast you either. Like I get it if you want to do that. Just be prepared. I don't want to hear you complaining. I will say that. Anybody that drafts him, don't come crying to Nick and I when you lose him. We'll help you find a replacement. The daily rundown that Nick does will help you find a replacement. The articles I do over at Fangraphs will help you find a replacement if you need one, but don't come crying to us about it.
Well, the problem is that the innings are like, the question is 120 though, Spore, that's still really valuable. That's so much better than the guys.
He can be a
but
top
that's kind of favorable.
Pitcher.
That's on the favorable side, I think, of the outcomes.
Based on the last 2 years,
isn't a bank.
64 and 92 the last 2 years. Obviously 2020, who cares? That's 68. Nobody was pitching innings that year. So yeah, that's Jacob DeGrom. We're nervous about him. It'll change for me at least a bit in spring. If he gets through spring, well, I'll move him up, but I'm not gonna move him up to like 1 either. Because again, like you said, he can be great in April, but you still have 5 more months to deal with. It's an ever-present thing with him. And I understand that it's ever present with every pitcher, but with DeGrom, it's the price that you're putting out to get him. Like I know that who's another guy like our boy Blake Snell. He has injury issues, but I don't pay anywhere near that price. Clayton Kershaw. If you want a guy that can pop like that, just take Kershaw later because he's still brilliant for every inning he pitches. And you do have to worry about the downside of his innings. So totally get it. If you're taking DeGrom, Nick and I right now, we are not. So let's get into our picks. I'm going to take my first one here and talk about a guy who's been propped up quite a bit here on the shows throughout the season or throughout PitchCon here. And it's Tyler Glasnow. And I do get it because Glasnow's a monster. He's also beautiful. I feel like Call me crazy. I'm not even joking. I feel like his good looks help him get drafted higher.
Killian Murphy, man.
I'm being
Looks
100%
just like him.
serious. If he looked like Ron Karkovice, he would not be going drafted this high. That is an old reference, but Ron Karkovice is the ugliest player I've ever
Wow.
seen. I'm sorry, Ron. I'm not a good-looking dude, but Ron Karkovice he needed to be a catcher. In fact, I heard this. I don't know if this is true. I heard that Ron Karkovice could have been the best center fielder in baseball history, but he was so ugly that they had to move him to catcher so that he had to wear the mask. I heard that.
Here?
I
How did
heard
we
that.
get here?
That's just what I heard, Nick. Anyway, Tyler Glasnow, beautiful man, but dangerously unhealthy most years that he pitches. And I just don't know what to do with him. It seems the market is ready to just go full bore. And I get it because every inning he pitches is a wonderful inning. But here are his totals. I'll leave out 2020 because it doesn't matter. Since getting to Tampa Bay, that 2018 split season, it was 112 innings. That was a career high. Then 61, skip 2020, 88, 6 2/3 last year. What are we doing with Tyler Glasnow right now? You know, I put him at 33 in that initial ranking that I talked about. I've inched him up from there, but we got people taking him inside their top 20 right now. Are you on that same spot with Tyler Glasnow?
Oh boy. My latest one had him at 28.
Okay.
And listening to both Eno Saris and Steven Lineman this weekend, during PitchCon has me wanting to push him closer to 20.
Same.
So the two arguments that I heard, one is from Eno saying, "Hey, there's a 400 inning honeymoon with Tommy John." I mean, it makes all the sense. Essentially, it's been repaired. We just don't think it's going to be as solid as an actual, a normal elbow. And then there are some parts like, yeah, obviously it's good right away. It's just not going to last as long. So it should be really good right now. The Rays are going to let him go. I'm seeing in the comments right now from TPH saying 123 innings like McClanahan got in 2021. I think it's going to be closer to 150. Essentially every 5 days he just goes. Sure, it's not going to be 6 or 7, but 5 innings, but 150 of Tyler Glasnow. I think the introduction of the slider is ridiculously good from 2021. It is an element that Glasnow needed. It is kind of weird that his fastball isn't as good as I want it to be. But yeah, I kind of realize he should be able to go 140, 150. And that is really high quality. So I might have him around 24, 25. Maybe I am going to include him inside that aces of dubs that I've been saying. That goes for me up to Joe Musgrove at the moment. But maybe I just put him at 25, right above Nestor Cortez instead, and just call it a day there. But yeah, it's a struggle right now. I mean, after last year, we saw Verlander return. We saw Luis Severino return. We saw Shane Bieber return. All these guys that had these big injury questions entering the year, and most of them came through for you. The heavy majority did.
I almost put Bieber in this spot, by the way, because we kind of did ace middle, and then we ended up both doing a combo for our third pick, and it was almost Bieber for me, but I feel a bit more confident with him. But yeah, Glasnow's up there.
Right, and it was, I think 2021 entering that, it was Kluber and Tyone were the two injured ones, and I overshot. And then I was more reluctant on Verlander and Severino. I mean, Clevenger and Syndergaard were in that mix, but Syndergaard I really hated, and Clevenger I was more encouraged by, and I was wrong to do so because
the price was okay on him.
That was okay. That was still
Thor,
like
to be honest, too.
45 or 50.
Yeah, you weren't getting hemmed up too much on the price with them.
But Verlander was up, and that was exceptional. And that's
my homerism helped me.
Yeah,
because I mean, I'm not going to pretend I had any insights on it. I just trusted him as a unicorn and took Verlander. But that's all it was my bias toward him.
The thing is, people are assigning that now, I think, to Glasnow, and I don't think I can do that.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on right now. So I'm trying to find the right middle ground, and maybe there isn't just a broad stroke of the brush of how we treat injured players. My rule of thumb from the last 2 seasons was, if they are an elite pitcher, then I'll raise them up further, like Verlander was, right? As opposed to Kluber and Tyone, which they weren't. So yeah, I guess 25 is where I'm probably going to settle on Glasnow.
Right now, Glasnow's the 27th pitcher in drafts, starting pitcher. And I think that goes up as much as 10, 12 spots if he's looking good in spring. I think as we get closer in draft season, I think he'll be surged up there. People will get confident. I can get as high as maybe 20, I think. But if he is going in the top 20, I think that's where I tap out on Glasnow in most builds. But we'll see. We'll see. Right now, I'm I'm more encouraged by both PitchCon and our discussion right now. So I've already
Yeah.
mentally moved him up. Let's talk about your guy because he's got some interesting aspects to him. Name him and then we'll discuss him.
Yeah, it's Kevin Gosman because I get a feeling that this is Dylan Cease 2.0 for me.
Oh, were you
Where
you're
where
gonna be
like
wrong?
last year I was like, guys, I don't trust Dylan Cease getting much better. I was like, no, Dylan Cease is my guy. Dylan Cease, and I'm the one that's like, I don't know. He walks a ton of guys, and it's only a
Hmm.
slider that's good. Then of course Dylan Cease increases the slider usage massively, and it isn't as bad on his fastball and his curve and overperforms. And there you go. That's this brilliant season, and I'm the idiot. Now we're all in
Not
consensus
an
on
idiot.
Dylan Cease, though. Now we're all like on the same page, which is nice. We all agree, which is cool. Kevin Gosman feels like that right now because I feel like I'm the low man on him, and a lot of people are in on him, and I understand why. It's because of the K minus walk rate,
Yes.
20% and 4%, and I
Can I
get
ask you
it
one question right away?
absolutely.
Why do you what do you make of him leading baseball in BABIP last year? That was insane. And
Yeah, right.
it
So
was
that's the story,
persistent. It never
and I
came
and
back.
I and the story of BABIP to me is goes all the way back to my favorite Fangraphs article, right? The Noah Syndergaard
Yep.
flaw. And that was a similar discussion, I think, that we had, not in the same way exactly of being historic, but it was that, oh, Noah Syndergaard has a 337 BABIP, but there's no way that's going to stick around. Look at his stuff;
Yep.
he's so good. K minus walk is
I
really
used to
good,
say that.
and he actually deserved it because he would throw these fastballs that were very hittable.
Just super hittable heat. Like
And Kevin
anyone can
Gausman does the
time
same thing,
99. Like even though think of the
right?
worst player that you know in baseball, he can time 99 if you're throwing it straight as an arrow.
And his four seamer last year allowed 39% hard contact overall. It was worse against right-handers than it was lefties. 37% versus 40%. Reverse that. 40% for right-handers. Gosman's four-seamer is a problem. And I get that he has a super low walk rate, but when that low walk rate is making you more hittable, you had a 9.7 hit per nine last year. Sure, it was a 7 in 2021 when by the way the defense was way better for the Giants too.
Yes,
But
that's
I
a good
think it
call.
was fortunate for him there, 275 BABIP. And then the Jays, which by the way, with Alek Manoah, kind of shows that it's not really just the Jays defense and the home turf that's affecting
Exactly.
Kevin Gosman's BABIP. But yeah, sure. Let's just say it's a 320. I'm just gonna be generic and
That's
broad and quick on
43
that.
points off. Yeah, that'd be a
Right. But let's
43
just
point
say it's
diff.
that. Okay, the hit per nine comes down, but that's still not as amazing as I want it to be. And I think the ERA should have been higher than 335 last year based on this.
Mhm.
And I kind of worry if like is this enough for us?
And for
I don't hate
SP17
him.
as
Yeah,
well.
I don't hate Gosman. I have him I think right around 20. I've seen people put him inside their top 10
You do.
and hovering that, and I can't push that when I expect a hit per nine above 8. And that's just to me is making me a little bit too cautious on Kevin Gosman. It makes me really tough for me to rank him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think early on, it was like, oh, this BABIP will regress because he's really good. Like you said, the strikeout and walk rates for Kevin Gosman were really strong. He's not like a huge ground ball guy, giving up a ton of squirters through on the turf or in Toronto or anything like that. This should come down, and it just never did. And you had to start thinking at some point he has to be playing a role here. And you go back to that fastball. I wonder, in a perfect world, if we could get him on Cleveland because they've had a lot of bad fastball guys that they've been able to figure out by saying,
Sure.
stop throwing that sucker so much. I mean, Kluber at his peak had a legitimately bad fastball. The
Oh
sinker
god.
and the four
Yeah.
seamer were
Carrasco,
terrible pitches.
Bieber's is
Carrasco,
still bad.
Bieber's is still bad. And that
Yeah.
gives people pause with him. And I understand that. So if he was on Cleveland, if Gosman was on Cleveland, maybe this can be solved. Maybe Toronto will get him there too. But then does he have enough to go to if he doesn't use that? Because then you're talking slider splitter, and we know how you feel about the splitter. I love the pitch when it's working, but it's that when it's working that you have to triple
Yeah.
underline because it is such a difficult pitch to continually command. That's what you and I used to bat around with Montas. That's when you put me on you can like the pitch, but you better be careful trusting it because of the difficulty of it to command. So I totally get you with the Gosman concerns. That BABIP really threw me for a loop last year, and it had me pushing him further down in my rankings. I can't get him top 10 like some folks, like you were mentioning.
Right. I mean, keep in mind, people can say, but Nick, the 238 FIP. Well, right. It's because FIP is about
Well,
walks, it's about
yeah,
strikeouts, and it's about home runs.
yes.
And there's a lot more to me when I look at Gosman. Again, talking about the batted ball stuff. It's not. It's fielding independent. Yes, but it doesn't quite acknowledge that not all BABIP is the same.
Exactly, and I
And
think
that's the one fault there.
that's something that we've learned in recent years, that BABIP, that guys have some control in their BABIP a lot more than we kind of ever thought, for the
Right.
positive and the negative. So
Right.
let's move on to our next. Oh, go ahead. Did you have one more thing?
No, no, I mean,
Oh,
just
okay.
more little things like our model PLV that were just revealed at
Hmm.
PitchCon for pitch quantification. It loves the stuff of Gosman, and we might actually, when we put out Hit Luck, which is our more simplified version of BABIP based on what they throw, it might actually say like, okay, Gosman's Hit Luck wasn't as ridiculous as we think. So we'll have more on that in, I believe, in later in February. So I'm really excited about that because this is my theories about it. And tune back in March to see where Gosman is on that hit luck.
I'll be eager to see your evolution on your Gosman ranking. Let's
Oof.
talk about my next guy here. You know, I love my body comps, my Chris Sales, my stop signs, my Taylor Swifts. These are all things
Oh
that look
man.
exactly like my body. Tristan McKenzie is my literal body comp. Same height and weight, 6'5", 170. Love watching him out there. I can envision what a stick. His nickname is Dr. Stick, so I don't feel bad calling him a
Is
stick.
it really Doctor? I knew Sticks. I didn't know it
It
was
says
Doctor
Dr.
Sticks.
I
That's so
want to say
good.
in BREF it says Dr. Sticks. If I
Oh,
recall
that's
correctly,
awesome.
it says Dr. Sticks, which I love. And so I really enjoyed the breakout last year. I can give myself a slight pat on the back. I was on it, had him in a few leagues, helped me out there. I didn't have a huge season, so maybe just a slight back pat as opposed to a victory lap there because I didn't win many titles. But he threw 191 innings. Started off poorly. Remember, he came in relief, I want to say, on opening day. It was cold. You know how I feel about the cold. I know
Oh
he
my
doesn't like the cold with no insulation to protect him. So he struggled. I think even his first start was kind of crummy. People were like, oh, this McKenzie guy, no good. Boom, 296, 095 ERA whip. I remember reading an article, I want to say at The Athletic, that he had to learn to trust his stuff and just throw it in the zone and say, here it is, hit it. I'm good. I'm better than you. You can't hit it. He actually got some encouragement from other players in the division. I want to say Sal Perez and Miguel Cabrera were the two that were cited that basically said, kid, you're too good to be just junking around and trying to throw everything out of the zone to get chases. Throw your pitches in the zone. Like they gave him basically a tip of like, you know, when you're not facing us, let us hit homers off you, but then everyone else, just throw your pitches in the zone. So he gained confidence and he took off, had a breakout season, 26% K rate, 6% walk. But I don't know what to make of him because coming up with McKenzie, he's probably the best prospect that they've had in this whole Cleveland is a pitching factory revolution. And so there was a lot of excitement about him. Like they made something out of Bieber. They got Kluber out of thin air. They revitalized Carrasco. They turned some of those mid-tier guys into solid, firm guys that you could trust regularly. McKenzie's the guy that's supposed to be awesome, but injuries have consistently gotten him. And it is that frame that we wonder, could that hold up to a full season? It did, but can it do it again? Pair that also with a bit of a home run issue. Even last year at 1.2, that's a little high for me. I like that he doesn't walk guys, so they're solo shots instead of 2 and 3 run homers, and he does miss bats, but I'm nervous on him. And when you were showing me some things that are going to be coming out on Pitcher List in the future, you say, "Hey, any pictures you want me to show you?" I said, "Let me
First
see
one.
McKenzie,"
Yeah.
and it wasn't terribly encouraging.
No,
And I
it's
want to be
not.
in on him because again, the soft factors, the favoritism toward him, the fact that I like him, the body type stuff, and all that. But that's just my heart. Like my brain says, danger, danger, danger. There's red flags here. And I think paying the premium on McKenzie is something that I'm not comfortable doing. And so I've kind of been pushing him down my rankings over the course of the offseason. I have him 26 right now. He is SP 26. It matches the
Huh.
market right now. I think I'm going to end up below that right now. Where do you currently stand on Tristan McKenzie?
Oh boy. I have Tristan McKenzie. Oh, where is he? I can't even. I have to keep scrolling down. 38 is where I have Tristan
I get
McKenzie
it.
right now. Yeah, the PLV models hate him. And it's essentially an average fastball against right-handers, way below average for a slider. I mean, generally, you guys know this. Righty on righty, sliders are the best pitch in the game, like
Yes.
bar none.
Just
And so
like
our
off the
model
charts.
scales it 0 to 10. 5.23 is the average. 471 is like, oh boy, that's
When I
near like
saw
what we
that,
almost call a bad pitch. It's like, oh
yeah,
god.
I
He's
wanted to cry.
his consistency on it isn't there. The curveball, he doesn't throw it enough, I think, against right-handers, only 14% usage. It's a little bit better, but 479, it's not good. It just is not good. You're aiming for at least like a 5.2 or something along those lines. And curve is average against lefties, despite all the swing strikes. It's because he bounces so many of them, and it's frustrating to watch. Tristan McKenzie. Now, I'm glad the walk rate improved because he just kind of threw his fastball and was like, do something with it, and he got away with it.
Yeah, he said, good luck.
I don't think he's going to, though. The slider, really, the consistency is not there. Yeah, we're going to see a fall a bit, I think, from Tristan McKenzie. Now, one thing I remember messaging you was that of all players in baseball, I think Tristan McKenzie is the only one I care about when it comes to best shape of his life.
Yes.
Because when you look at a skinny pitcher, one thing I've heard for a long time is adding weight helps so much with stabilization of your mechanics and consistency with your mechanics. Essentially, the more strength you have, the more the less you are, I don't know, prone to letting the fall of gravity take you, right? And he could come back. He's like 165 or something.
Yeah.
Clearly, Cleveland is giving him a weight program.
10, 15 pounds could do well for McKenzie.
If he weighs mine, I'm at 180 over here.
That'd
Okay,
be great.
If he
That
weighs
would seriously be great.
That'll be better, right? So maybe that will be a thing we see with Tristan McKenzie. If he improves on that, maybe that means we get more stability, more ability for the four-seamer to stay up instead of just inside the zone. He did increase his zone rate 6 points from 2021 to 2022 on that four-seamer. So McKenzie did take that lesson, as you were talking about, from Excel Perez and the rest of the division, saying throw the stuff in the zone, and it worked for him. I don't think it's going to again. And considering we have so many guys that are good, really, there's so many that I'm just stoked about. I had to just keep pushing down Tristan McKenzie because I think he's most likely to fall in this upcoming year.
Yep. And it could be one of those things, we have our guys that we always buy based on, or we always dictate based on price exclusively. I keep mentioning Tyler O'Neill. I'm probably back in on him. I couldn't be paid to take him last year at the premium because he's so volatile. And now this year with a little bit of a discount, I'm back in. With McKenzie, I think I'm fading this year. And then if he does have the fall off that we're kind of expecting, he's like a mid-4s ERA because the homers are too high and just doesn't quite do what he's expected to. And then he drops down past pitcher 50 next year. I'd probably be back in, hoping that he can continue to kind of develop because he's only 25 this year. So we're at the early stages of his career. I hope he can stay healthy. And I agree with you. I'd love to see him come on, put some weight on, get past me on the weight marker there, and be closer to 180, 185. I think that would be a really positive thing for Tristan McKenzie. So
absolutely,
I'm fading him right now. You got a guy pretty close to me there. SP26 was McKenzie. You have SP32, a guy that was batted around quite a bit in the chat yesterday when we were talking Mariners guys. Which one of those three big Mariners pitchers are you actually four? I guess they have. Well, it depends if you include Ray there, but just it's not Ray. So say your guy.
Yesterday, I said Robbie Ray didn't even have him. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, I understand. I was being facetious.
I know.
But it was also more as a rock at the top.
Because the other three, Castillo, Logan, and George,
and
are the dudes. I don't know why I used the first name for the other two.
It was in the context of like Gilbert and Kirby look up to the stability of Ray. I'm like, did they have that? I don't know. But not Robbie Ray. I mean, I am struggling to rank Robbie Ray because the sinker grades so badly with us. He stays away from righties with it, and it's just bad. He doesn't really jam lefties with it, and you saw what Yordan Alvarez did with it. By the way, very quick tangent on that. If you didn't listen to our talk with Paul Sewald, sat down with him for an hour here at PitchCon. I believe it's on our podcast network as well. He talks about the preparation, and that was the plan for Alvarez going in. And man, it was. I've talked a lot about me watching this and seeing that was their game plan, and just shouting at the screen,
being very angry about that.
I was so, and especially because you have all these hours of the game plan, and if I could talk to Paul Sewald, I would say like, well, how many times do you think what you're seeing just throws away the 8 hours of preparation? Because you could have seen that Alvarez was looking for that exact thing,
and then just get away from it because
and it's such a hard thing. It's such a hard thing to decide what to do. Sorry. Tangent from the heart. Anyway, Logan Gilbert. I have no idea what to do. A really, really fun conversation with Eno earlier this week too. Of I love George Kirby long term. I trust his four-seamer more. Oh man, I keep thinking you are everybody. Spore. Eno believes that Logan Gilbert's four-seam is better. And oh boy, I feel very weird in any way disagreeing with Eno, thinking that one pitch is better than the other.
Right when he says something on pitching that I'm like hard disagreeing with. I got to reassess my stuff.
What am I doing? So Logan Gilbert's four-seamer, I think, isn't commanded as well, and Eno agrees that, but he thinks the stuff is better. However, George Kirby's had a 16% swing strike rate overall last year. And that's
Mhm.
something that's just, regardless of what you think of location and whatnot and stuff, like that is a thing that was done. Maybe Kirby's command gets worse next year. It's not as sticky as, makes a great point about. I think that Kirby's command is a stickier thing than the average pitcher. So I'm going to lean on that more. When it comes to George Kirby, well, actually, Logan Gilbert, man, they're
When it
just
comes to
Derby to
Gilbert.
me.
Yeah, Jerby, I
I
know.
guys, this is the 4th day of PitchCon. My brain is a
And
mush. Okay.
and you've had a lot of chatter about both of these guys, Kirby and Gilbert.
They're the same guy.
Let's
No.
reiterate that Gilbert is the one that you're having the trouble with. And it's
Yes.
interesting you say that about them being the same guy, because that's kind of the feeling that I had, at least coming into PitchCon, and then after some of the discussions that I've heard, because they've been hot topics, like I said. Um,
Right.
I'm starting to see the separation a little bit, and leaning a little bit more toward
Well,
Kirby, whereas I kind of liked Gilbert a little bit more coming into the weekend.
right. So with Gilbert, I don't trust his secondary stuff as much as I do Kirby, and especially also the development of it.
Mhm.
Really good points from about his focus and intensity to be like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to execute that as hard work, and that's great. Kirby to me has a better slider already, and that is already going to amplify what he does. Gilbert already went through the process of trying to improve his slider and his changeup, and didn't do it. He did tweak it a little bit by the end of the year. I don't know if I trust it from Gilbert yet. And I still think the fastball is a little bit worse, especially with how he commands it. So I
Yeah.
see a situation where you have a good pitcher. I think that he's going to give you a good enough ERA. You have 2 straight seasons of a 118 whip, essentially, that I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he improves in some fashion. But I don't, in some ways, I also think maybe he's getting away with stuff a little bit. It's
He
a little
might
bit high
be,
left on base rate. His home run rate is a little bit lower than I expected.
especially for a fly ball guy. Gilbert is a
Right.
fly ball guy, 35% ground ball rate. And you know what's a little bit weird about that hit rate too is that usually that's associated with a ground ball guy. They give up more hits. The fact that he has such a high hit rate,
Oh, that's a good
8.3,
point. Yeah.
with the fly balls, that push pull there. And I think Gilbert is a great example of the distinction between control and command. He has great
Yes.
control. He'll fill the zone all day. He's not going to walk guys. His command leaves a bit to be desired, which is putting the ball where you want, whether in or out of the zone. Control is just simply putting it in the zone. So I think he's a control guy. I think Kirby is a command guy right
Yeah, because you look at the breaking stuff. I mean, this curveball is just like, please just find the zone for the love of God.
now.
And then the slider is, look at strike zone plots. I really, really encourage this. We have it on our player pages right next to the GIF, and where you want a slider and a curveball to be. You want them to be
Mhm.
low location. That means in the bottom third of the zone or lower, and you want them to be glove side. It's sure you can say against lefties, you can see some backdoor stuff, fine.
Sure.
But if I see YM lock that is not high location in the zone, not low location in the zone, that third row in the middle, you don't want that ever for a breaking ball. You just don't.
No,
And when I see a lot of it from a slider specifically, I get worried. And that's a lot of Gilbert sliders. It's just a
it's unfortunate.
23% CSW that is way below average. Last year, it was about 30% CSW is the league
Yeah,
average for a
that's a
slider.
huge
You
split.
don't want
Wow.
that. There's work to be done. And he already had a full year of trying to get that to work. Maybe he got a little bit better by the end, but I don't think it was enough for me to go, oh no, this is a new slider. Now I'm so excited if he just has that. There's still work to be done. So for me, I'm out on Logan Gilbert at the current price. I'm fine with him as like an SP4, but I don't think I can get him at that.
Yeah, because there is love for him, and love for Gilbert and Kirby there, and they're kind of maybe Kirby's raising Gilbert, because it seems like when one goes, the other goes after. I think same thing with the two Logans, Webb and Gilbert. They go near each other too. So if somebody
Mhm.
pops Webb earlier, it almost seems like Gilbert by default goes shortly
Sure.
thereafter, because
They're
that just
so
seems.
different.
I,
They're
well,
so
I agree, but I just think
I
two
know, I
two
know. Yeah, yeah.
control or two control Logans, they seem to go together for some reason. Maybe that's just in my head, but they
Maybe
are
it's just
only.
all of us wishfully thinking for a Logan sequel.
Yes, we
So we'll
they
see.
we want to see if they can do it. But I'm with you. Gilbert needs to improve, and
Oh,
if
yeah.
he doesn't, it could be some big trouble this year as SP32. And I do have some concerns about him. I've since moved him down already, even before this chat here, and Kirby way up, much closer to him. In fact, above him now, and he does have that dog in him. Gilbert does, and I mentioned that
He's
in the
got
chat
that dog
yesterday.
in him.
And I do believe that. Like I do believe he does have that bulldog mentality. He competes, and that's why he's able to survive with that high hit rate. But at some point, you got to heed that 385 Sierra as opposed to the 320 whip or 320 ERA. 320 whip would be a big problem. 320 ERA. I do think he might be closer to an upper threes, low fours ERA for Logan Gilbert. All right. I said I'm doing some slight cheating here because I'm taking a combo, and then you found a combo. So we just ended
I
up
found a
turning this into the
combo.
combo picks for our pick 3 here. And it's the 2 Cincinnati guys, Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. And this one's kind of simple for me in terms of why I'm struggling. It's just the park.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. I love both of them. I'm very, very interested in getting them, but I am terrified of that park. And they're both still a little bit raw too. There are issues to kind of be worked through for both, but I do worry about what that park can do. It is Coors Jr. It is a park not to be trifled with. I don't think their supporting defense or bullpen are particularly strong either. And we need those things in fantasy, right? Like we need those ancillary pieces to be strong there when we're picking guys like this, because they're expected to do some big things this year. You know, Green had that great finish. Those final 6 starts were brilliant. Lodolo showed flashes throughout his 103 innings last year, but I don't know what to make of either right now. And I'm a bit nervous. Let's take them one at a time. Let's start with Green because he's the one that's really drawing the attention and the flash. He is going as SP 34. Lodolo just behind, though, at SP 37. So they are going close. How do you feel about Green? Are you ready to take the plunge with him as somebody who's going to be a G this year?
Man, this is so hard. So I'm actually being really aggressive with Hunter Green. It's funny
Okay.
because
I
back
like
in
that, by the way, because you're usually
October,
a little bit more
yeah.
cautious.
Well, I keep going back and forth. I keep like trying to find the right answer. So I had him at 61st in October because what happened was I had my initial guys I was really excited about and believed in their upside, and then I essentially had my safe picks and my injured picks, and then I had another run of upside in my tiers. So that
Mhm.
meant I had to push them essentially 15 or 20 spots lower than I kind of wanted to, but it's just like there are different groups. Which one do you want to go to, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like how after the 3 Premier Leagues are all the even leagues underneath that. So Hunter Green now is elevated up. And it's not because of those last 6 starts. And I understand the appeal of those last 6, especially considering his 4-seamer was up in the zone consistently. That's actually a really cool thing.
Yes.
When Hunter Green throws the ball up, he succeeds. Actually, all of his hits last year were all down. He didn't have a single one when he threw a pitch up, which is just insane.
Wow, that's crazy. I knew it was a success driver for him. I didn't realize to that degree
Yeah,
that Hunter
it's
Green
that
just does not
extreme
give
of
up
it.
high pitches. Wow.
And the
Or
fact
high
that, well,
hits.
and I'm trying not to say that I'm going to read too much in those 6 starts, but there's something to be said. Maybe actually, 6 starts, he did that and believed it and had success. The slider also grades incredibly well, like
Mhm.
super, super well. And then you sit down and you think about Hunter Green, you go, wait, he's just Spencer Strider and he's Christian Javier. He's the same guy.
Yep.
He's the
Yeah.
same guy.
He's in
31% K
that
rate
tier.
last year, 16% swing strike. It was 12th among all starting pitchers. He has the hardest fastball in the majors at 99.
That's
Yeah,
good and bad though, right? Because
sure, you could
that
say injury stuff you wanna
that
talk
sort of
about?
fastball leads to injuries. That said, I don't try to predict injuries and run from guys too much. I really don't.
Sure.
Like if they're talented,
Um,
I'm going to take my shots.
and so what I think is you're worried about the park, so fair, absolutely fair. If he is throwing that high heater though, if he actually does that, then he'll be okay. And watching Alex Chamberlain's presentation, talking a lot about location being launch angle, you can actually affect the launch angle, and the more up you go, the more you'll get to the pop-up land.
Mhm.
And Green is starting to embrace that and kept his slider down as well. So I love this. I've gone for it. I'm saying yes, Hunter Green. As someone who was against it when I first saw him, I was saying Nick Lodolo is going to be better than Hunter Green. All of this stuff. I am now in on Hunter Green. I'm going for it.
I had him 34th in October, so I was matching the market before the market was really set. Um, I guess I am ready then, because if he's already that high in my rankings, I'm ready to go for it. And yeah, the park is a little bit scary, but that high hit thing, or not allowing hits high in the zone, he needs to trust that. Obviously, command has been an issue for him at times because he throws so hard and has such a nasty slider that Hunter Green doesn't always know where it's going. But that 6 start glimpse was beautiful. You don't want to make too much of any small sample, but it was really, really scintillating for him. Let's talk Lodolo. SP 37, not too far behind, works with the curveball as his best pitch. Maybe the higher prospect of the two. I don't remember. They're close in where they're going in the market this year. They were close in prospect rankings as they were coming up. I still think there's a lot to like. He had a bit of an injury issue last year, only ended up with 103 innings because of the early season injury. I like him too, but not quite as much as Green. It sounds like you're in the same. Where does he currently rank for you, Nick Lodolo?
Yeah, I think I have him at 41.
Okay, so you have a little bit of a bigger split between the two.
Yeah, I've debated a lot with Fast about Nick Lodolo. I want to love him. I really do.
Me
I
too.
see a better version of Andrew Heaney,
Ooh.
where you have the fastball that we can't decide if it's a four seamer or a sinker,
Mm-hmm.
and it misses bats. He does like to go up and in to right-handers, which I call my uh, number one quality of a lefty. If you can do that, oh boy, you'll have success. If you
It's
watch
such a
James Paxton's no hitter against the
yep.
Jays, that's what he did.
It is such a huge factor to finding success against that opposite hand as a lefty. And funny you mentioned Heaney. The 103 innings that Nick Lodolo threw last year is more than Heaney has in his entire career. Don't look that up.
Oh, nice. But the curveball works incredibly well against right-handers and left-handers alike. And he dominated lefties. He just didn't face them last
Yeah,
year.
they
I mean,
took him
really
out. They
to
got
an
a day
absurd
off.
degree, which is kind of wild. And to see Lodolo perform this well, honestly, 3.66 ERA, 125 WHIP, 30% K rate, pretty much throwing against 80%, 85% right-handers
Mm-hmm.
is pretty ridiculous, especially for a guy that I think can improve as he's going to be 25 this year with the changeup that's developing. If that changeup shows up, I mean, that's often a very good nullifier for off-handed batters. Oh, that this could be incredibly exciting. I do worry that the sinker is a little too volatile. Often we see that from lower arm angled lefties, where they struggle to go, elevate as they want or really locate east west. You see that in Sean Manaea, for example.
Ooh, good
And
reference.
oh, thanks, buddy. And I and Nick Lodolo might have that too, which makes him, I don't know, 9% walk rate. That seems kind of right.
Yeah.
So it's more volatile than I wanted from Lodolo. I think he is also going to be susceptible more so to that Park than Hunter Green will
Yes.
because of that. So I'm a little bit out on Lodolo, but it's a fun one. We're going to
There's
be
a
talking
world where you
about him
can
a
still
lot.
get him though, right? You said 43 you
Yeah.
have him, SP 43?
Yeah, 41 or so.
41.
Right.
He's going SP 37. There's going to be drafts where he's there for you.
Yeah.
You're not aggressively running away from Lodolo, and neither am I. I have since moved him up from the 43 that we were pretty much in lockstep there. 43 in
Yeah,
that
look at
October
us.
ranking. He's
How'd we
already
get here?
incrementally jumped up on the page that I'm looking at here that has my projections and everything. He's already moved up to 39. And
Mm,
I'm not done with everything yet. So we'll see where Lodolo ends up. So I feel a bit more confident about them after talking with you.
okay.
I will end up with some shares of them. By the way, you mentioned Lodolo 25 this year. Hunter Green 23.
It's insane.
Must be nice, man. Must be nice for the Reds to have two guys like that, man.
Ah,
If they didn't have such terrible ownership, maybe they could actually get some stuff going.
yeah, right.
All right, let's go to your duo. Talk about team context. It is on the complete other end of the spectrum, and it's what part of what makes them appealing. But they have questions within how they perform. Imagine if we could flip things and put Green and Lodolo on this team,
Oh my
and then
gosh.
discard these other two guys to the Reds. That'd be kind of mean. But give us your duo from the
Well,
Dodgers.
actually, I like how we're doing this, where you express the guys that you're worried about, and then you tell me how, and then I tell you how to feel. I want you to do the same here. We'll start with Tony Gonsolin with Dustin May, but Tony Gonsolin, I mean, obviously super low BABIP last year. Saying that the
Mhm.
shift helped him the most, but I mean, still phenomenal sparkling season last year, 16-1, 2.14 ERA, 0.87 WHIP, 24% carry. What should I do, Spore?
So of course he's going to come back to the pack a bit, without a doubt. Gonsolin is obviously he's not going to put up a 16-1 again, if anything, just because that's so difficult. The Dodgers are good again, 214 as well. I do think though that he can remain successful. Remember the command issues that he had in 2021? They didn't make a whole lot of sense
Mm-hmm.
compared to the profile that he'd had, right? He had a 14% walk rate. I was like, what's going on with him? Well, he had 56
Yeah,
innings. Injuries were a big problem there. You do mention that he benefited from the shift. And while there are going to be moves on the shift, it's not completely gone. Defenses can still alter themselves in different ways to
sure.
hopefully help him. And the Dodgers are one of they're at the forefront of analytics and making the best out of their players. I think they're still going to find ways to protect Gonsolin a bit. I think the problem that I have, and that I don't know that I can get you too excited about him, because I think the market is still going to be pretty excited about him. SP54. That's not a terrible price for somebody with a
Oh,
214. I think
that's good.
they're pretty
All
smart
right.
to not overrate him. But I think it's going to go up. So unless you're doing winter drafts, I think he's somebody that will start to move up as things go, because if anything, just because of where he's going to rank in league. So to kind of depend on the outlet that you're playing at. NFBC is where he's the SP54. These were all the data that we're giving. But because of how well he pitched last year, places like ESPN, Yahoo, they're probably going to have him higher in their default rankings. And I don't think the price is going to be as good. I do still think that he has a good enough arsenal to be a solid mid-threes guy, miss enough bats. He's always missed enough bats, 12.6% swing strike rate. That's good enough to be a 25% K guy, which is kind of where you want to be there. If he's your SP4, I don't have that many questions about him. Can he go $180 though? Will they let him?
Right.
That I don't know. So that I can't really get you confident on. If he's not your SP4 or later, I'm fading him too. So I don't have a ton to say, yes, stick with him, because changing the shift rules, being overrated based on how he did last year, those are going to be factors working against him. And I don't know that those are necessarily going to change in draft season.
You know, SP54 is pretty much where I have him.
So that works at NFBC, but I do think that the other outlets are going to default him higher,
because
and
that was draft champion stuff, and they're saying the
Yes.
injury questions from 2021, only 130 innings in 2022. That's why you see Gonsolin fall. But you know, in our 12-team stuff that I talk about, Gonsolin becomes more of a I'll just start him until he's hurt, and
there is that aspect though with guys like that, where if you are in a 10 or 12 team league and you do have a more robust waiver pool, you can be more take more risks with guys like
Volume
this.
isn't as important.
Exactly, because you will be able to replace it. And so if you believe in him, go for it. But I'm gonna heed the 404 Sierra skill interactive ERA and say, don't get too aggressive with
404 talented pitcher not found. We have
what you saying? He has no talent. That was a good 404 reference. That was a brilliant reference.
But no, Tony Gonsolin, what I've seen is that the splitter zone rate went up massively last year.
We talked about how hard the splitters are too, by the way. Sorry to interrupt you, but we talked about how difficult they are. He had a brilliant season with his splitter. That was a key driver, and that does breed command issues, even though he's had good walk rates most of his career outside of that 2021. There's just a lot of questions with Gonsolin, most of which I don't think will be answered until we're already deep into the season and you've already kind of had to roster him.
Yeah, the thing that actually I care more about is the slider, because if the slider is getting a ton of strikes, then he doesn't need to throw the splitter as often and in the same way. He had to get a 70% strike rate on a splitter last year after a 58%. And that I don't think that's going to stick around. 43% O swing was ridiculously higher than we've seen in previous years. Peak command of a splitter, I don't know if that sticks. While the slider fell underneath, still under a 60% strike rate. It was actually why I was against Gonsolin entering this year, because it was a 52% strike rate in 2021 for Gonsolin's slider. He improved it, still not enough. So for me, I think as an SP4, I don't know, because for me, the first 4 starters I take need to be guys I'm good with the entire year. I feel like health should be good with them, and I feel confident through the entire year to have them. Gonsolin, I would love an SP5 12 team where you can make that work, especially if he's going around 50 or so. Like, great. I would love to add Gonsolin as something I don't need to rely on. But it's struggling. It's a struggle for me to really figure out exactly where to put him. And when Dustin May,
now that I can maybe give you a little bit more confidence on.
Yeah, please. I mean, so it's a 4.5 ERA, 117 whip. Came back from Tommy John, and we all say, oh, Tommy John, the last thing that comes back is command, 11% walk rate. I do have some other concerns, but I'm curious, like, should I just kind of throw them away? The price is low enough that you should just jump in.
Pretty much. Yeah. So, coming back from TJ wanted nothing to do with him last year, just because you're going to get those blowups. The way TJ works, man, you can come back, you can have 5 great starts in a row. You look like you're back to yourself. You're an ace. And then that one comes and they say that they just didn't feel right that day. Like, you hear guys talk about it. They've had TJ and they've had those blowups. They're like, I felt like a different guy that day. And that happens even when you're healthy. But with TJ, the blowups are just going to happen over the course of their comeback. I think those 30 innings kind of count as his comeback, though. We're going to be several months removed from it now. And I do think that it's going to be not all systems go, because again, he's never pitched more than 56 innings in the majors, but I think it's going to be most systems go. For one, the Dodgers don't have their same starting pitching depth of recent years. They need a $130 plus out of Dustin May. He's 25 years old. I think it's time to take the kid gloves off a bit and let him unleash. 2021 was going to be the breakout. Everything was in line there. I know it was only 5 starts. I don't want to overrate it, but there was so much to believe into what was going on there that I really do think he was about to take off. Sure, the 86% left on base rate was probably going to come back to earth, but so was the 1.6 homer 9 that he had based on a 40% homer to fly ball rate. He had a 38% K rate and a 7% walk rate. His stuff has always been nasty. We've always been wondering when Dustin, and I say always, it was like 90 innings of Major League Baseball from 19 to 20. But in those 90 innings, we were like, where's the swinging strikes? Where's the strikeout stuff? He throws these, he's the most giftable pitcher out there, especially because of his look with the hair and everything too. What's going on? And then it clicked, and then he popped. Of course, that's what happens. Came back last year, had his TJ issues, but 13% swinging strike rate. I think this is the year to get him, because the price is going to go way up next year after he has a solid year. SP47 is not dirt cheap, but it's not super expensive for somebody that I think can be a true SP2, SP3 for you. I'd say more SP3, because I do think the innings will be limited to a degree. I think $150 would be fair. That would still be a 120 inning jump from last year, but I do think the Dodgers are going to have to push him a little bit for their own success. And I just think there's so much to like with what he does, and the stuff that the glimpse that we saw in 2021. I think May is ready to have a coming out party.
Oh man, I want you to be right. I so do. We love the sinker against right-handers. Against left-handers, we still love the sinker. So the sinker is really good. I believe. I mean, it's not a swing and miss pitch. I think that are struggles to be had with Dustin May's overall command still. And the fact that it is a sinker does allow him to get hit a little bit too much, more than I would want with it. And that's what made me excited in 2021, was that the cutter, or really you could say the breaking ball, was all of a sudden that swing and miss pitch and changed everything. I mean, also, oh my gosh, I'm looking at the model right now. Against lefties, the curveball had a 5.83, which is just that's insane. You're not supposed to do that for a curveball. I mean, it was such a small amount. It pretty much broke it.
Didn't the cutter also in that
the cutter graded well
in 2021?
It's honestly too few pitches thrown against right-handers for us to do this
That's
for
fair.
2021. But it's not returning anything for us there. But yeah, Dustin May, the problem I have is trying to fit him in with everything. If I'm going for Dustin May, that means I need to essentially get him by the 12th or 13th. And I don't know if I want him as my SP4.
I know you like your core 4, that you always your foundational 4 there have to be the guys you build off of, and I get that,
because it allows me to play. It allows me to then do what I think is the easiest way to get value in season, which is through pitching. So I can't do that if I have to find my entire staff on it. But if I need to find like 2 or 3, oh man, then I'm gold. Then I've got like 7 pitchers I want to start all the time. Like, that's how you soar in your leagues, at least in my view. So I don't know if Dustin May can be that right there. I'm looking at NFBC ADP, like Chris Bassett, I feel so much stronger about for the full year, who's going 7 picks before Dustin May. Pablo Lopez is going 2 picks later. And again, both of those guys to me as an SP4, I'm like, good, fine, we're all right, we're settled. Dustin May, we're hoping that the command fully comes back. I hope that swing strike comes back on that breaking ball, but I don't know yet. And that gives me a little bit more hesitation at the moment. But yeah, I might be pushing up a little bit. I think you are convincing me more so about, Dustin May's skills are really good. And the more and more we talk about this honeymoon with Tommy John, Stephen Lyman was really smart, being like, Tyler Glasnow's ready to go. He should be good to go. Everything's fine. He pitched back and he was great.
I think May is too. So, and he's cheaper than Glass now. All right. We don't have too much time left. Nick's going to come in and interrupt us here in a moment. So let's do our favorite post 300 ADP guys. This is since January 1st, draft champions at the NFBC !ADP in the chat if you're watching PitchCon live, and we'll just do a quick hitter on them. I'll let you do yours first.
I mean, it's the same thing.
But you can also do your quick mention of the guy who's no longer outside.
The one I really, actually, in my 12-teamers, who's going after the end of your draft, essentially 275 picks. After that is the end of your standard 12-teamer draft. Somehow Michael Kopech isn't drafted. And he got surgery on his right knee, not his left. Stephen Lyman made a really good point about this. That's better. It's not the load-bearing knee.
That's
It was
right.
something that was bothering him through all of last year. He got the surgery, and as long as the surgery was fine, he should be good to go. Take a chance on that.
His
Even
price is
nothing.
tanked.
It's nothing. He's the SP5 for the Chicago White Sox. He's throwing 96, 97 in spring. Oh my gosh, everyone's going to go for this guy.
You're right. You're right. He'll
Same
soar.
with Kenta Maeda, who is the
Love
same thing
Kenta
about the
Maeda.
Tommy John honeymoon. I mean, the way I see it is when you're talking about these late picks, if all they need to be more valuable is health, that is the one I would take.
I
That
completely
is
agree
the
with
thing
you.
I go for. It's so much easier to unlock that
Than
than it is a
skills.
new pitch.
That's
Throwing
like one
harder.
of my main adages. If everything's in place but the health, I'm taking that guy.
Right.
Give
He
me
has
the
the
premium
opportunity.
skills.
So I'm all for both of those guys at their late picks.
Kenta Maeda, Michael Kopech, I like it. I'm actually staying in the AL Central. We didn't do this on purpose.
Look at that.
And it's not as easy because the schedule is unbalanced, a little bit more unbalanced this year. So they don't just get to beat up on their division. But Cody Morris, when I did the panel with Johnny Legeza and Scott White, I had to go before they had a chance to talk about Cody Morris. So I didn't get the chance to rave about him. I'm just fully bought in on Cleveland Guardians and what they do with pitchers. And I really, really like Cody Morris. I think there's a lot of opportunity for him to be somebody who's going to maybe not start the season in the rotation because he's not currently penciled in. Bieber, McKenzie, Quantrill, Savali, Plesac, but Zach Plesac's not very good. And they've had some injury issues with certain guys too. I think there will be opportunity. I think he is next man up. Cody Morris is. He's really, really talented. The one thing is I don't think he's gonna be able to get a full workload, but that's okay. He's not starting the season in the rotation. If you have reserves or if you're in a deeper league like Draft Champions 50 rounds, get Cody Morris, wait for him to get in the rotation, and then take off. I think he's gonna have a huge summer.
13% swing strike rate on a four-seamer because he had a 62% high location. Cody Morris, Cleveland with a good
fastball?
Maybe? I love that pick. I remember when he came up this past year, I was like, hey, this is actually a surprising sleeper. Had a wonderful start against the Twins, 6 innings, 1 earned run, 6 Ks.
I want to say James Anderson put me on. I think that's the right accreditation that I want to give, that put me on him last year before he even came up. I've been tracking him since. Like I said, I'm in on anybody Cleveland. If they brought Dave Burba back, I'd be at least a little bit interested.
Just a little bit.
Just a tad.
But that's all we got here, Spore. I got to kick you out.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you listen on the podcast, definitely appreciate that. Everyone watching on PitchCon, please donate to the ALS Foundation. This is for a wonderful cause. We love Sarah Langs. We love everybody, obviously anybody that is dealing with this, if it's touched your life in any way, $5, $10, $20, $100, whatever you can do, it all matters. Nick, you do such a brilliant job with this, man. The way your organization skills are to put on such an amazing event. I love you, dude. I'll also see you in an hour because I'm hosting the panel in an hour for you. So I'll be back.
Fantastic. Spore, thank you so much. And it's always fun hanging with you by the fire. All right. Thanks so much, Spore. See you soon. You're the best, man.